Today, we're unpacking a really powerful piece of writing. It deals with something I think a lot of us can relate to, that unspoken and honestly often really lonely reality of building something great in the dark. We're going to explore what it actually takes to just keep pushing forward when absolutely no one is watching you. So let's jump right in and look at the foundation of this invisible struggle.
The source material kicks things off by confronting us with this super raw, almost uncomfortable question. Why does nobody clap when you're struggling? It points out a pretty harsh reality. Nobody checks if you cried last night. Nobody notices the silent battles you're fighting every single day. And think about how true that feels when you're right in the thick of a really difficult project or maybe a massive personal challenge. You're putting in this monumental effort, you're dealing with all this unnoticed late-night pressure, and yet, total silence from the outside world. The text kind of forces us to acknowledge this isolation right up front. It really validates that feeling that the absolute hardest parts of any journey are almost entirely uncelebrated.
And there's a really stark contrast here that the source highlights. It draws this sharp, undeniable line between the before and the after. So before the win, it's all silent battles and literally zero clapping. But the text notes this fascinating, almost funny shift. The very second you win, suddenly everyone's like, oh, I always believed in you, right? We've all seen that. It brilliantly illustrates the sheer hypocrisy of how people react to success. The source is asking us to really observe this behavioral flip. The exact people who are completely absent during your struggle are magically the first ones to claim they supported you all along once you cross that finish line.
So what's the underlying rule governing all this behavior? Well, the text explicitly states that as we grow older, we learn a pretty dangerous lesson. The world respects results way more than effort. Just let that sink in for a second. Society doesn't hand out medals for the times you tried really, really hard but failed in silence. It just doesn't value the sweat and the tears on their own. It values the outcome. A bit harsh? Yeah, maybe. But this is an absolutely crucial takeaway from our source material because it resets our expectations. If you're sitting around waiting for the world to respect your effort alone, you're going to be left waiting for a very long time.
Chronologically, the text breaks down the stages of this invisible journey. First off, when you're unknown, people doubt you. It's just a natural human reaction to be skeptical. Second, when you're broke or you're starting from absolute zero, people ignore you. You aren't even on their radar. And third, when you're building quietly, you're completely unseen. The text uses a really visceral image here. Nobody sees the heavy pressure sitting on your chest at 2 a.m. They don't see the nights you stayed wide awake, or the moments you almost gave up but forced yourself to continue anyway. They only see the final outcome. And this progression shows exactly why the struggle feels so incredibly isolating.
Let's just pause for a second and let this contrast really sink in. Pain is invisible. Success is loud. This right here is the core thesis of the source material, just beautifully distilled. The pain of failing, the anxiety, the late nights, all of that is entirely invisible to the outside observer. But success? Oh, success makes noise. It's highly visible. It demands attention. And the text points out that this extreme contrast is exactly why most people end up quitting way too early. The discrepancy between how much quiet, lonely pain you have to endure compared to how loud the eventual success will be, it's honestly just too much for most folks to handle.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the fatal flaw that makes people quit. The source identifies it super clearly. People expect support before they actually provide any proof. They expect a round of applause before they've achieved anything of substance. And the text points out a really blunt reality. Life just doesn't work like that. If you approach your goals fully expecting that society is going to cheer you on while you're still fumbling around trying to figure things out, you are setting yourself up for some deep, deep disappointment. The applause comes after the achievement, never before.
Now, to help shift our perspective on this, the author introduces a really fantastic metaphor. Think about a seed. When it's buried deep down in the dark dirt, it isn't failing, right? It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The text argues that the strongest people are built in these exact seasons where they are completely underground, where absolutely nobody is watching them. The growth is definitely happening, it just hasn't broken through the surface yet.
And this brings us to a major reframing in the text. Being ignored right now isn't actually a sign that you're failing. Not at all. The source redefines this period of isolation as the construction phase. It just means you're quietly building your foundation. Think about a massive skyscraper. The most critical structural work happens deep underground long before a single floor is visible to the public. So if you're feeling ignored, the text suggests you shouldn't despair. You just need to realize you are simply in the construction phase, doing all the heavy, unseen lifting.
If you need a little reassurance that this silent construction phase is completely normal, the text provides a great list of what success actually looked like before it got loud. Every single champion once looked completely ordinary. Every millionaire once looked practically crazy to the people around them. Every highly respected person was at some point deeply doubted. It's a powerful reminder that your current, uncelebrated state, it's actually a strict prerequisite for greatness. Everyone who has ever built something significant had to pass through this exact phase of looking ordinary, crazy, or doubtful to the rest of the world.
The text anchors this whole idea with another really striking metaphor. Even lions walk alone before they lead the jungle. Right now, the source acknowledges maybe nobody supports your dream. Maybe your friends literally laugh at your ideas. Maybe your own family doesn't understand your vision at all. And yeah, that is incredibly hard. But the text validates this lonely reality. Walking alone isn't a sign of weakness. According to the source, it's just the natural path of a leader before they command their environment.
Bringing this back to a pretty stark reality, all of that laughing, all of that misunderstanding, it changes the very moment results appear. And why is that? Because society follows success. It rarely, if ever, follows potential. People generally just do not have the time or the vision to invest in your potential. They are waiting for the finalized successful product. This perfectly captures exactly why the silence exists right now. Society is literally just waiting for your potential to convert into undeniable success.
Because of this reality, this source delivers this really passionate, direct instruction. Stop crying about who didn't believe in you. Instead of wallowing in the lack of support, the text tells us we need to alchemize these negative experiences. You must use the silence. You must use the disrespect. You must use the loneliness. Let all of it fuel you. When you finally shift your mindset to view that disrespect and silence as the exact fuel that's going to power your construction phase, honestly, nothing can stop your momentum.
And here is the inevitable outcome of staying the course, at least according to the text. One day, the exact same people who completely ignored you, the ones who literally laughed at your ideas, they are going to turn around and study your lifestyle like a blueprint. They will look at the loud success you eventually produce and they'll try to reverse engineer it. And they'll completely miss the fact that it was built during all those invisible, silent nights that they actively chose to ignore.
But here is the craziest part, and it's a brilliant question the source leaves us to ponder. By the time they are finally studying your blueprint, will you even still need their validation? The profound irony highlighted here is that this intense desire for applause and validation that you might be feeling right now in the middle of the struggle, that desire completely evaporates by the time the success actually shows up. You will have built so much internal strength during that silent construction phase that external validation, it simply won't matter to you anymore.
As we near the end of our analysis here, the text drives home one final, totally undeniable truth. Nobody cares when you start. The starting line is basically invisible to the rest of the world, but they care when you finish. Finishing is the absolute only thing that forces the world to stop, look, and actually care. It's a beautifully simple summary of the entire dynamic between invisible effort and loud success. The source ends with this incredible two-word punchy mandate: so finish. It's a clear command based on everything we've just learned today. If the pain is invisible, and if society only respects results, and if the applause only ever comes at the very end, well then there is only one logical thing left to do. So my question to you as we wrap up this explainer is this: knowing that the applause won't come until the end, what are you going to quietly build in the silence starting today?